I couldn't help but be reminded of the 2 millennia of warm, fine weather, which must indeed have seemed like a golden age, before the sudden, lethal onset of the Younger Dryas 12,800 years ago. The Zoroastrian texts would not be far wrong in describing it as a fierce, foul frost, and as a fatal winter. The evil spirit to whom this affliction is attributed is Angra Mainyu, the agent of darkness, destruction, wickedness, and chaos, who stands in opposition to and seeks to undermine and undo all the good works of Ahura Mazda. For Zoroastrianism is a profoundly dualistic religion, in which human beings, and the choices we make for good or evil, are seen as the objects of an eternal competition or contest between the opposed forces of darkness and light. And in this contest, the darkness sometimes wins. Thus the Vendidad reminds us that although Ariana Vallejo was the first of the good lands and countries created by Ahura Mazda, it could not resist the evil one. Thereupon came Angra Mainyu, who is all death, and he counter-created by his witchcraft the serpent in the river, and winter, a work of the demons. Now there are 10 winter months there, 2 summer months, and these are cold for the waters, cold for the earth, cold for the trees. Winter falls there, with the worst of its plagues. In other translations, the phrase, the serpent in the river and winter, is given as a great serpent and winter, and alternatively as a mighty serpent and snow. Again, you get the idea. The metaphor that is being repeatedly driven home here is that of the mighty serpent who springs from the sky down to the earth, who penetrates the earth, and who brings a prolonged winter upon the world, so severe that it is dark, most turbid, opaque according to some translations, at midday, and even the fleeting summer months are too cold for human life. Once again, the whole scenario seems very accurately to describe the terrible conditions that would have afflicted the world after the Younger Dryas comet spread its trail of destruction across at least 50 million square kilometers, brought on a vehement destroying frost, and threw such quantities of dust into the upper atmosphere, together with smoke from the continent-wide wildfires sparked off by airbursts and superheated ejecta, that a turbid, opaque darkness would indeed have filled the skies, reflecting back the sun's rays and perpetuating something very like a nuclear winter for centuries. The Zoroastrian texts leave us in no doubt that these conditions posed a deadly threat to the future survival of civilization. It was for this reason that Ahura Mazda came to Yima with his warning and his instruction to build an underground shelter where some remnant of humanity could take refuge, keeping safe the seeds of all animals and plants until the dire winter had passed and spring returned to the world. Moreover, the account reveals very little that seems mythical or that obviously derives from flights of religious fancy. Rather, the whole thing has about it an atmosphere of hard-headed, practical planning that adds a chilling note of veracity. For example, the admonition that deformed, impotent, lunatic, and leprous people should be kept out of the Vara sounds a lot like eugenics, a distasteful policy to be sure, but one that might be implemented if the survival of the human race was at stake and there was limited space available in the refuge. For the same reasons, it's not surprising that only the seeds of the greatest, best, and finest kinds of trees, fruits, and vegetables, those that are fullest of food and sweetest of odor, are to be brought to the Vara. Why waste space on anything but the best? Also, although it is certain that a number of carefully selected people were to be admitted to the Vara, perhaps as caretakers and managers of the project and as future breeding stock, the emphasis throughout is on seeds, which in the case of human beings would be sperm from the males and eggs from the females. So when we read that the Vara is to be constructed in 3 subterranean levels, each smaller than the one above, each with its own system of crisscrossing streets, it is legitimate to wonder whether some kind of storage system, perhaps with ranks of shelves arranged in crisscrossing aisles, might not really be what is meant here. In the largest part of the place, thou shalt make 9 streets, 6 in the middle part, 3 in the smallest. To the streets of the largest part thou shalt bring 1,000 seeds of men and women. To the streets of the middle part 600. To the streets of the smallest part 300. If it seems fanciful to imagine that we might, in an almost high-tech sense, be looking at the specifications of a seed bank here, then how are we to assess other technological aspects of the Vara, for example, its lighting system? As well as making a door to the place and sealing it up with the golden ring already given to him by Ahura Mazda, Yima is also to fashion a window, self-shining within. When Yima asks for clarification as to the nature of this self-shining window, Ahura Mazda tells him cryptically, there are uncreated lights and created lights. The former are the stars, the moon and the sun, which will not be seen from within the confines of the Vara during the long winter, but the latter are artificial lights, which shine from below. Yima did as he was instructed, and completed the Vara, which thereafter glowed with its own light. That accomplished, he then made waters flow in a bed a mile long. There he settled birds by the evergreen banks that bear never-failing food. There he established dwelling places consisting of a house with a balcony, a courtyard, and a gallery. There, too, we're reminded, in accord with the commands of the god, he brought the seeds of men and women. There he brought the seeds of every kind of tree and every kind of fruit. All those seeds he brought, too, of every kind, to be kept inexhaustible there, so long as those men shall stay in the Vara. Finally, we learn that every 40th year, to every couple, 2 are born, a male and a female, and thus it is for every sort of cattle, and the men in the Vara which Yima made live the happiest life. Interestingly, the translator explains in a footnote drawn from various ancient learned commentaries on the text that the human inhabitants of the Vara live there for 150 years. Some say they never die. Moreover, and particularly intriguing, the births of offspring to every couple do not result from sexual union, but from the seeds deposited in the Vara. Other hints of a mysterious lost technology connected to Yima include a miraculous cup in which he could see everything that was happening anywhere in the world, and a jeweled glass throne, sometimes described as a glass chariot, that was capable of flight.